Hello exiles, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sylver and I've made one video before. This is my second video, so very excited to have you watching. I hope you've had a lovely Christmas, took a few weeks off for that, and yeah, we're back at it. So, first Ascendancy class we took a look at was one of the monks. It was the Martialist. What I wanted to do this time was, following on from the latest showcase of the Mercenary, I wanted to jump into that class. I had a few ideas, I saw a few interesting ideas on the forums as well, over at PoE2 subreddit. I would highly recommend going over and taking a look at that. Some really good conversations happening, people are just very excited, and Jonathan is jumping on and taking quite a lot of questions and answering quite a lot of questions as well, which is quite exciting. But yeah, back to the matter at hand. I decided I wanted to show off a mercenary subclass that I have been working on. So this Ascendancy is called the Brigand. For those who aren't familiar with the term, I will chuck it up here. I've got two other Ascendancy classes that are already fleshed out. They take, I think, a bit more of a typical or expected kind of idea of what we saw in the showcase from GGG a few weeks ago. So let's jump into the skill tree, take a look at the artwork, and here is the Brigand. As you can see, here is the skill tree. There's nothing hiding behind me in the corner here, don't worry. Let's just start from the center point, and then, yeah, we'll just go north to start with, work our way around, and then we'll follow off into the spoke on the right-hand side. The themes I wanted to go for this were debt, there was like Gangster kind of themes, and this idea of grit. I love this kind of like bit of a geezer, East London.
It's an unlicensed boxing match, Tom. Not a tickling competition.
So yeah, this kind of gritty, down-to-earth guy who's like seen a lot of dark things, is maybe a bit of a lovable rogue that they've created with the voice lines and stuff.
There's not a job out there I won't take, so long as the pay's good and a crossbow can solve it.
So that's what inspired this Ascendancy a lot. So yeah, we'll start off heading up. So we've got 10% more maximum damage to 5% less maximum damage. So essentially a 5% more damage multiplier, but just increasing the range. And we come to our first node, which is Gambler. I'm not going to read all of these like I did in the last one. I think that was a bit boring, to be honest. So I'll let you read this for yourself. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about being a little bit more creative with it. I think this is it's something that will constantly feel interesting. It's like a little gamble, it's a little one-armed bandit pull every time that you encounter a rare or a unique monster. The balance on this may be adjusted slightly. I mean, 6% permanent life, that's up to 36%, which on a rare I don't think is like crazy, because on average this would be a 18% life loss, which is kind of like an 18% cull. Which is maybe a bit strong. Maybe we bring that down to like 4 or 5% per score. But yeah, for unique enemies, this certainly I think would be a little bit too strong. That's what I've said in the line there. Yeah, we halve that for the unique enemies. It'd be a bit nutty if you could go into a Uber boss and drop 36% of their life straight away, right? Whereas 18%. Maybe if we bring these numbers down to like 4 or 5%, you end up with like a 14% kind of like instant health loss. Would be amazing on a high roll. And then you've got this other cool element of it, getting some like, basically if you get unlucky twice, you get a massive bonus. If you get lucky twice, you get penalised. And I think again, you'll feel that in the gameplay. That's our first one there. I'll tick these on so that I know that I've gone through them as we go around. So coming around to the left, yeah, stun and block recovery, some armor. This is kind of a bit of a like semi-defensive, semi-offensive. The point behind this was really just to like focus on this idea of debt, that like as you're getting hit by an enemy, they're pissing you off. And then it makes sense the opponents that are sticking around to hit you long enough are the ones that you really want the damage multiplier against anyway. So this is kind of like a bit of a rare killer, of course, like from bosses as well. And then I love this idea as well of having like counter-attack. We don't know what they're going to do with counter-attacks. I think it'd be a really interesting design space, especially now they're trying to make combat a bit more methodical. So that's what this is playing into. The idea that, yeah, that someone keeps hitting you, they're getting up and close to you, and you just pull out a shiv and shank them. I just think thematically is wicked. I don't know how strong this would feel compared to some of the other nodes. I mean, it's a strong node for sure. Again, balance to be confirmed, as always. But I just love the idea of a counter-attack build, and this kind of pulls away a little bit. So this is certainly like, as you'll start to see, this is a bit more of a melee-focused Ascendancy. Coming round to the left, we've got some attack speed and move speed, and our little baby headhunter. I think this has been like a long time coming in an Ascendancy. I think people have kind of wanted something like this for a long time, and it just made so much sense to me in my mind to go on to this kind of like brigand ambushing, bit of a dodgy character kind of thing, stealing power. This idea of stealing. So yeah, it's totally limited though. I didn't want to just have it where you just pick up one mod and it just stays on for ages, because then you end up in weird situations where you're like hunting for rares to try and like get the right bonus and all this sort of stuff to rush a boss. That's naff. However, you can hold 3 of these, right, as it says. So the idea of this is you're just running through it. There'll be like nice surprises is kind of how I wanted it to feel. I wanted it to, like, again, focusing on gameplay, I want it to just feel like these nice little bonuses that come up and be like, oh, cool, I got this. Just like when you run into an acceleration shrine, right? And because you can't really store all these up and like then zerg into a boss, that's why I've added the onslaught against unique enemies as well. So you're really going to be in for a treat if you get a boss that is spawning rare monsters. Something like, what is it, like Cathedral Top or something, the map in PoE 1, where you get like these waves of rare monsters. But yeah, so that's that. And then down to the bottom left, we've got max life resistances and White Knuckle Ride. So kind of building on this like assault heavy theme from the last node, this is and sort of coming into this like grit theme of just having a bit of a tough life. I don't know how people are going to feel about this, especially on hardcore, because this is kind of like a little bit of a cheat death mechanic once a minute. But then at the same time, I tend to think, well, if something's going to blow you up in like 1 second, then it'll probably blow you up in 2 seconds. So I don't think it's too crazy. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But yeah, getting the numbers on this top section were a little bit tricky, because I thought, well, if someone reserves 90% of their life, then originally I had these at like 4%, and then I was like, holy shit, that's like nearly 40% attack speed, and movement speed and damage. I was like, okay. 2% didn't feel quite right, because let's be real, most people that would pick this node up, they might go low life and they might reserve, you know, like Petrified Blood or something like that. But then you're only getting what, like 15% of each, maybe like 18% on average, and that feels kind of right. Like I feel like that's a cool thing, and you'll feel this through the gameplay. And then as you push it too hard and you do die, you've got this like one chance. So it's kind of like a bit like a berserker mentality. Coming down to the bottom, we have, let's bring it over here, perfect. Yeah, we've got grit. It's a stacking damage reduction based on life loss recently. Super simple, really. There's not too much to say about this one. I just like the idea of trying to give the mercenary an ascendancy that allows it to be a little bit more melee focused, a little bit tankier. And yeah, not focusing as much on the crossbow gameplay that we saw. 10% more life, wicked, always good. All right, this is where I think it starts to get a little bit interesting. So all of the nodes up till now have been kind of like, you've got 5 options there. I think of like all really interesting nodes if you want to play like a solo style. And now you're starting to get a little bit more into like party thinking and potentially some minion builds. So minion builds for mercenary, I know it sounds crazy, all will be explained. So down here on the bottom we've got aura effect and curse effect. Again, numbers on these just taken with a pinch of salt. So this trio node down here is, I think is sick, especially for this side of the tree. Like there's nothing quite like this. So it's basically a selection of 3 different curses that you can get as auras. You've got cruelty, punishment, and enfeeble. So I haven't made them entirely free because I think they should have a little bit of a cost at least. But I've also added max curse, one max curse on all of these. And I just, yeah, because I just don't want to, like, I think it's a bit lame if you get this as an aura and then you can't curse anyone with like a mark or anything like that. I think, especially for this kind of character, I think that would be important. So yeah, I think maybe maybe it's overpowered. That reservation number you can sort of bring down to try and balance it a little bit. So maybe it's only like a 40% reservation efficiency for this curse, right, or something like that. If you really needed to like nerf it. So let's turn all of these on. And by the way, I'm hoping you are enjoying the icon work. Okay, so exciting. So now this is where we get into like the minion, the gangster theme part of this Ascendancy class, and I think it's wicked. I don't know if you can tell. I never play minion builds. I've played one minion build maybe like 6 years ago in PoE 1. But I think it's that whole like necro thing is just not my cup of tea. But this idea of having slightly different minions is exciting to me. So we'll start up here, minion life and damage. Woodwork. So bandits, what the hell are bandits? Bandits are a new type of minion skill that I have created. I've actually got some examples here. Yeah, so if you just take a look at this one in the top left here, summon bandits or call bandits. It's just like a skeleton basically. It's like a humanoid skeleton. That's the basic like bandit version. We're going to come back to the other ones, so don't worry about those just right now. But so this idea, bandits, your bandits or your, you know, effectively your skellies, right? Bandits gain confidence. Whenever you kill an enemy whilst the bandit is alive, they gain 1 confidence. That can scale all the way up to 100, as you can see there. And then with this, you get an active skill called Gang Up. That basically spends all of your current confidence to trigger Feeding Frenzy. I'm not sure if this will have the same name. I'm sure it'll probably be a different skill, potentially in PoE 2. But then they gain Feeding Frenzy, which makes them aggressive, gives some other bonuses with increased effect per confidence spent. So this basically is just like a, again, trying to make minions a little bit more interesting. It's this way where like your minions, you want to keep them alive because you want them to stack confidence. And then the more confidence they have, the more you can spend, and the more sort of you get this like one, let's zerg down this boss kind of thing. Love the theme of it. Thing's really fun. Okay, next, aura effect and spirit reservation. So this is where I think, this is where I just had loads of fun with this basically. So we've got right hand gang, you gain 2 gang members. Now what the hell are gang members? So gang members are not minions, they are like companions, kind of like followers in, like, if you think like D2, right? These are essentially like mercenaries, tons of games that have this idea. But if you imagine them kind of like, this was very much inspired by Heist. If you just imagine them like your Heist companions or Heist followers that join you on your heists. We've got 6 options here. So once this is a new type of kind of design dynamic on the skill tree where basically you select something and then you get access to select from other nodes. And you can see I've sort of identified this with these thin lines around here. So if we take this, then we can now select up to 2 gang members. And so I've created 6 here, 6 to choose from. Greyhound the Scout. And each gang member has a sort of theme to them. They have their own skills, and you can see in the flavor text on the bottom here, it tells you a little bit like what weapons they wield and some of the skills they use. But, you know, that's for the designers to add some flair and interesting skill choices to these characters. And they also grant you these passive benefits, which are in the white text in the center here. You can see those throughout. So Greyhound gives you crit. Then we've got Demetra, the cat burglar. So this was the idea that actually, like, she's the daughter of, oh god, why can't I remember her name now? the other cat burglar from PoE 1. 20 years on, like her daughter, she's had a daughter and she's grown up and sort of followed in her mother's footsteps. But has stealth, uses traps, can cull, and gives you some nice sort of rarity and quantity bonuses. So yeah, I mean, I know quantity's probably not going to be in the game now, so this would just be like a rarity stat. But yeah, nice little bonus. Marini the Freak. I love it. So yeah, mana regen. This is kind of like taking a Lyra, kind of. But yeah, mana regen and reservation. But she curses enemies and uses detonate dead. Wicked. Like, very cool that you could get a follower that is like detonating corpses for you. I think that's amazing. Huge quality of life. Clive the Operator. Just a solid guy, Clive. You know, just gives you just basically tries to keep you alive against ailments and gives you some ailment duration. But he's like our merc essentially. So if you can kind of see the theme here, right? Like we've got our kind of assassin, our shadow. We've got our ranger-ish sort of character. We've got our witch. So these are all kind of like attribute aligned. Our merc, he's inflicting ailments on the enemy as well, which is, again, just super quality of life. And then we've got Old Man Tibbs. Old Man Tibbs, so another throwback to PoE 1. I just think that character's amazing. I think the model's wicked. He's like so imposing when he's on the screen and stuff. And it just makes sense that these guys would be friends. You know, for some reason that just works in my head. So yeah, Old Man Tibbs, he's still going strong. He just gives you some nice strength and life benefits. Stuns, he knocks back, he sort of does big giant Tibbs things. And then we've got Brother Kieran, who, Brother Kieran the Pragmatist, gives you just some nice quality of life stuff for survival, resistances and stuff. But yeah, he's our kind of Templar, our Templar gone rogue. Gives you some vitality, uses some shielding spells. We don't know a ton of what they are yet. But yeah, you know, you can imagine like some sort of taunts, something that like gives you a shield whilst he's blocking and that kind of stuff. I'm really curious to see what they do with defensive skills in PoE 2. I think they're going to be, I hope, and I do think they're going to be quite interesting. So yeah, so here is our gang members. So let's just say I think Marini is going to be interesting. I don't know. I don't need crit. Let's go Marini, and I want to just try and tank up a little bit. So let's pick these two. And then we can follow this on, and we come to our last node, which is a trio node. And this is like an interesting ways and quite divergent ways to take this minion idea and run with it. So I'll start off on the bottom here, which is the Don. So this gives you, this basically builds on this gang theme. Gives you one additional gang member. All of their passive bonuses are increased by 50%. They're a bit tougher, they do a bit more damage, and they recover 50% faster. So you can see in the bottom here, as it says, usually what happens, these characters never die. It's kind of like Heist, because they're not minions and you can't resummon them. They're not a skill or anything. So when they die, when they lose all their health, they just basically get winded, like knocked down, and then they take 8 seconds to recover. With this node, they'll only take 4 seconds. So it's kind of like Legion of the Primordial, the Elementalist node, from that Ascendancy. But yeah, it's just they're up longer, they're a bit tougher, they do more damage. You get another one, and they give you some more bonuses, which, you know, you imagine 50%. Again, this needs balancing, but like, you know, it's 45 strength and 15% life, which, considering this node doesn't do anything else, you know, I think it's like, okay, cool, we want to make sure that these bonuses are decent. And I think if you like combined any two of these together, the crit chance might seem high on this, but actually I think it's like reasonable, considering it seems like they're going to be putting loads more base crit into the game. So I imagine they'll be reducing the amount of increase that you get. But yeah, so we've got the Don, that's that one. Next up, the Family. This is another different take on this gangster gang member theme. So yeah, as you can see, you get all of them. You get all the gang members. They don't give you any passive bonuses. So just you completely forget about the passive bonuses, and you can't have any other minions, and you lose 100 spirit. So they essentially cost like 17 or 18 spirit each or something, which is totally fine because they're now classed as minions, and I think that's like the huge power in this, right? Like, so this is going all in on this idea that you've got this like 6, so you can't have any other any bandits. So woodwork becomes useless. You can't have skeletons. You can't do SRS. You can't do anything else. But you can just stack these characters to the max. And remember, like, a lot of their skills are actually quite diverse, and have a lot of utility in of themselves, right? Like Demetra can cull. She sets up traps. You got curse and corpse detonation. Got knockback, ailments, like all this stuff. This is then like you've got these 6 really strong minions that you can then lean into, and it's cost you 2 ascendancy points. Again, the balance on this, maybe the spirit cost has to, maybe they're 50 spirit each, and let's say 300 spirit's quite hard to get, like you need a scepter and some good gear and stuff. Then maybe you can only have like 4 of these, right? And as you're leveling through the campaign, you're gaining one more. Yeah, I don't know. Balance. We'll have to see how that shakes out. But yeah, I love this idea. So this is instead turning these into minions, going full minion build, bringing up your auras and sort of like letting these guys do the work. And then finally, we've got infamy. So finally, very different take on the whole minion theme again. So you can't have any gang members. So this now sort of like, so you've lost this entire Ascendancy node just to get to this one. But your bandits are 20% cheaper. So you're gonna get a ton more bandits. Effectively, and so this is essentially the bandit build, right? This is going no gang members, all bandits, and then when you are within, when you're near a rare enemy, you get an assassin. So this is kind of like you're not summoning them; they're automatically being summoned, and then when the condition's not met, when there's no rare enemy nearby, they disappear. And so it's kind of like reinforcements is like this idea that I think for these, which is really cool. And then when you're near a unique enemy, you get an assassin and an enforcer. So I've done a quick mock-up, as you saw a little bit earlier, of what these might look like. So if you imagine this is kind of like your skeleton warriors is your standard bandit. You've got your bandit rangers, so they snare enemies, and if made aggressive, they also fire barrages. Then you've got your assassins and your enforcers. So these are a little bit more spirit cost. And again, there's no spirit cost with this Ascendancy node. This is just, they appear temporarily whilst you're near a rare or unique enemy. But yeah, so the assassin is kind of essentially a high damage. They're using ambush, they're stealthed. So hopefully they're not going to die very much. And they get power charges, which powers up their flicker strike when they're aggressive. And the enforcer can use supercharged slam. I'm sure there'll be some other cool sort of warrior-esque skills that we just haven't seen yet, but that's kind of like the big motherload hit that we've seen so far. So when they're aggressive, they get that. And they use heavy strike and earthquake usually. And they also have a nice little benefit where they can't be slowed and stuff. So yeah, just something different, right? Like, I think this is like a really interesting take on what it could feel like to play a mercenary. It's just like offering this entirely different way to build a mercenary, have these gang members and these bandits. And I think even just the counterplay between gang members, bandits, do you want to go all in on one or the other? Do you want to support them with curses? What gang members do you want to use? That's just one half of the tree. And then we've got all these other really, some of them like quite straightforward, like grit, just harder to die. Some of them just sheer damage and sheer assault, kind of like Raider-esque almost. But then I think like these ones are really just like totally different and totally interesting. And maybe if you just took one of these with the, you know, all these different minion options, it's going to feel very different to play. This idea of like the gambler, that would suit a bandit build or a minion, you know, a gang build like really, really well, because you're just instantly like gimping the rares or the uniques. So yeah, this is it. This is the Brigand. I'm just very, very excited about this. I'm really keen to hear everyone's thoughts. Similarly, just a couple of like closing little notes on this, like similarly to the other trees that I'm working on, I've actually updated the monk tree, but I'm going to wait till loads more feedback comes through, and then I'm sure I'll do another video on that one again. But I've tried to add like roughly 9 ascendancy points, imagining that we get 8 points so we can take 4 notables. I think that just adds like a hell of a lot of variability to the build and build diversity without making it kind of crazy. Now this is me as like a punter who just gets to make these and not actually have to do all the work behind them. You know, we have 8 in PoE 1 generally speaking. And it just adds a lot more variability. I'm gonna post these over on the PoE 2 Reddit, so you can have a play with this and make your own builds and stuff like that. Let's say we're going something like we're forgetting the minion stuff and we just want to build something that is a melee, like high crit melee damage build. Well, then straight away we're gonna take I'd go Debts and Shivs. That's giving me obviously more damage. It's more damage multiplier as to them taking damage, and we get the counter attack, and we're getting a ton of crit based off that counter attack and some bleed. I'd then take Grit because I know I'm going to be there getting smashed in the face in order to trigger Debts and Shivs. So I'm probably going to lean a little bit more into armor, so that I'm getting hit a bit more often. Then we take White Knuckle Ride because it's just a hell of a lot of damage, and it gives us that save, so we don't have to. We can go a bit more aggressive with our playstyle. And then finally, I've got an interesting choice where I go, okay, do I want to get some headhunter stuff going on, or do I want to take a gamble and every now and then, you know, get some nice rewards from that? I'm probably just going to go taking names, and then maybe once I'm feeling the build strong enough late game, if for whatever content I'm running, I'll switch over to Gambler, and I'll get that nice rarity bonus, and allow me to maybe do some boss running strats where I'm just chunking their health early on. So yeah, that's like a melee build. Then I mean, obviously, I would be super keen to play a gang build. I think Bandits is really interesting, especially if you love that like Zerg, big army, skelly, like huge skelly builds. But let's have a look at Bandit. So if we come to right hand gang and get my first 2 members, I think I would probably pick up. Let's imagine it's early game, right? And like I'm just crapping myself because PoE 2 seems more difficult. I have no clue what's going on. I'm gonna get Brother Kieran straight away. He's gonna give us some vitality aura. Gonna do some defensive stuff, stop us from dying. Definitely want to play hardcore as well, PoE 2. So I used to play only hardcore, and now I'm a softcore, just a softcore. What do people call it? Like softcore Andy. But yeah. So let's say we're gonna get that benefit straight away. Get some defensive stuff, and then. Definitely not going rarity if we're playing hardcore, but that would be awesome. And then again, early on, need some mana regen, and get maybe another aura squeezed in, or some additional minions potentially. So yeah, let's go Marini. And then I'm gonna come through. Definitely, actually, do you know what I'll do first? I'll probably pick up an aura. So let's say I'm doing something like, let's say I'm doing bleed, right? Well, I probably want to take Cruelty. Finally come through, I'm going to pick up the Don. And that gives me another member. So let's go with Old Man Tibbs. Again, doubling down on defense. He's going to stun as well, which is going to be a nice defensive layer. And yeah, they're getting a bit more damage. Final points, get into our Uber lab, whatever that will be, our Uber class quest. I'm really hoping they do class quests, by the way, in PoE 2, in the subreddit. I saw someone saying, like, wouldn't it be interesting if instead of having a generic way to do ascendancies, you actually got your ascendancies from like NPCs that were relevant to your class in the game. You had to like hunt a specific boss perhaps, and maybe that boss was like an Uber version of the boss. Not Uber as in endgame Uber, but like Uber for that act, like act appropriate, a really difficult challenge. I think that'd be wicked. Hey, it's me from the future. So I really want to touch on this very briefly. I'm actually thinking about making an entire video about this new alternate kind of content vertical. It won't just be an endgame thing, it'll have loads of endgame repercussions and stuff. But it's just a very different way of incorporating loads of current League mechanics, simplifying them and putting them into a kind of new package for PoE 2. Anyway, I won't go too much into it now, but it does touch on this Ascendancy class, point getting, kind of how do we get these Ascendancy points, right? There's quite a lot of mystery surrounding this at the minute. So, that being said, if you have any ideas around alternative ways that we could get our Ascendancy points, I haven't seen this come up on the PoE 2 subreddit just yet. I'll be really keen to hear about them because hopefully it will inform the design of this new content idea that I've got, that I'm currently in the background putting together. So anyway, enough about that for now. Let's get back to the video. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, our last 2 Ascendancy points, come over and take Debts and Shivs. So this is for us. We're not going full in on the minion damage and like building up a ton of minions and letting them do it. But these are like our gang members. We've got a few of them that are helping us. Along with the cruelty aura, maybe we're using like double strike and getting a load of bleed or some chance to bleed skill or something. Maybe we've got a bow, like a crossbow, and we're doing like puncture sort of shenanigans. Something like that. That also then increases all of the damage that they take from our minions as well, not just us. What do you think? I'm going to have another one of these coming out. Hopefully, it'll take a week, actually, being realistic. But yeah, I'm going to keep going with these. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about the class. I really want to know if you've got any ideas of suggestions or like what sort of builds you would be excited to make with it. And then maybe some guesses as well about what other 2 Ascendancy classes I've come up with for the Mercenary. Huge kudos to anyone that guesses correctly. The names, specifically the names, because I think the themes will be pretty obvious in a way, or definitely one of them. But yeah, I'm really keen to hear if anyone comes up with any of the names and gets the names right. So once again, I have been Sylver. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for getting to this point. I've got some other Ascendancy trees up by this point, I'm sure, if you're watching. So go take a look at those. And yeah, give it a thumbs up if you liked it and sub if you loved it. Yeah, sick. See you later. Peace.